the two biggest complaints that a messaging playbook workshop or a messaging playbook engagement can help you with are, number one, aligning people across all of your teams. So we believe that messaging is not just the job of the marketing department. Messaging is everybody's job. The challenge is the marketing department is trying to say one thing and they're saying, hey, this is what you're supposed to be talking about, et cetera, et cetera. But sales is doing its own thing. Operations is doing its own thing. Your product team has a different idea. Your HR team is hiring for different things. And so getting everybody on the same page in terms of what your core narrative is massively important. All right. So alignment of your core message across teams is the number one complaint that we hear from business leaders. Now, when it comes to content creation, which is more squarely in the marketing department, the communications department, the other thing that we hear is just message consistency. It's very hard as you start to scale up your messaging. There's so many channels, the internet is a hungry beast, that being consistent across all of these channels with larger and larger teams in your marketing department is very challenging. And so we think the messaging playbook answers this critical need because it's the missing link between two core documents that almost every company has. Almost every company has some version of a mission, vision, and values statement. Sometimes it's on the website, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's on a PDF somewhere, maybe it's on your building on a poster. But companies usually at some point take time to document their mission, vision, and values. That's great. That's not the same as messaging. They also tend to have a brand guidelines document. After you reach a certain size, you need guidelines because there's not just one person putting out communications, there's entire teams. Problem with brand guidelines, or what's lacking with brand guidelines, is they usually have to do with the brand identity. And what I mean by brand identity is the logo, taglines, typography, colors, etc. These are often the visual assets concerned with the brand. What's missing is, how do you activate these things? How do you activate your mission, vision, and values on brand over and over and over again and get everybody on the same page, no matter who's doing the communicating? And the missing link there is really a messaging playbook. A messaging playbook is an actionable document that has actual ways for you to send the message over and over again in a way that conforms to your brand guidelines, and also, most importantly, that's uniquely you. And so we think the messaging playbook is the missing link, the number one thing that you probably don't have right now that you need to get going with your department. And what it's going to enable you to do is create unified, in other words, on brand, scalable, actionable messaging, no matter who's doing it. So I want to take you through the framework that we work through when we're working with teams in a workshop. Our typical process is this, by the way. We do a messaging workshop with all of your top executives. That's usually somewhere between 5 to 8 executives. Any more than that, and it gets a little unwieldy. And we spend the entire day kind of deconstructing all aspects of, who you're for, why they should choose you, where you fit in the entire kind of competitive landscape, what you uniquely offer, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to go through some of that right now. So even though we deliver a full playbook, this is really the nucleus of the whole thing. This is the framework that supplies all of the other pieces that are going to drive your messaging. And so I'm just going to walk through them very briefly so you know kind of what happens in the workshop, right? Well, what happens in the workshop is we're going to spend some time getting really deep about your ideal customer profile. And sometimes, the specific persona, there's a nuance of a difference there, by the way. Ideal customer profile sometimes has to do with firmographics. Maybe for mid-sized companies, enterprise companies, startups, what other characteristics do the companies have? The persona is the person inside those companies that's really going to do the decision-making. They're the person you're going to be interfacing with most often. Okay, we need to get really clear on who that is. The next thing that we're going to have in the framework is a brand promise. it's key. This is sort of what a finished product would look like. This is my sketch of a finished product. Obviously the one that we deliver is highly produced, but you're going to have your promise. Now, even though the promise is high up on this sort of like messaging house, if you will, it's one of the last things we actually write. Because first we need to figure out, well, what's unique and special about you? And we spend a lot of work detailing that with these big sticky boarding exercises. So we're going to go through first and develop what are all the things that are unique to you in terms of attributes and characteristics. Attributes and characteristics are facts about your business. How big is your business? What type of customers do you have? What are the dimensions of your product? How many people are involved in an engagement? These are things that can be verified in the real world, right? Now, we need to get all of those in the context of all of the people you're up against in the marketplace, right? Because what happens, especially in very competitive categories like finance, like health, like tech, et cetera, is a lot of the companies start to look the same. Well, we need to try to tease out, and first we do it with real verifiable facts, what's different about your company, your product, or your service. When we pull those attributes together, we start to summarize them, and then we translate them into benefits. Too many companies spend all of their words and communication in the attributes world, and we need to get it over to the benefits world, because people buy benefits. People don't buy attributes. You've probably heard there's the story about, when people buy a drill, what they're really buying is holes. They want the hole. They don't care about the drill. The drill makes the hole, but it's the hole that they actually need. So we go through the attributes, then we kind of translate those into benefits. Those, I'm going to come back to the pillars in a moment. Once we have those groups of benefits, now we have a unique combination of benefits that is unique to you, because we have been almost mercenary about not letting you put in the same old things that all of your competitors have. They have to be unique. All right. Once we figure out your benefit categories, again, this is all happening in this meeting, we're going to spend a little bit of time figuring out what's your unique personality. The challenge with digital marketing today, and almost digital marketing should just be called marketing, because there's always some digital aspect of it. And the AI overlay to that is everybody's communication is starting to look exactly the same, which is terrible for you, right? If you're doing that, that's terrible. You have to have a unique voice. So we spend a lot of time and in very competitive categories, this right here is the special sauce, figuring out what is your brand archetype? What is your brand's unique point of view? It might be disruptive. It might be service-oriented. It might be caregiving, but we need to figure out what point of view relative to the market do you have? We do some work around that. And finally, we figure out kind of what your brand language is, which is your voice. Do you need to send innovation signals, or do you need to send trust signals? Do you need to send comfort signals? What are the things that how you communicate that are unique to you? We think these are the 3 dimensions of personality. So we come up with, what is your brand personality? The magic happens, honestly, when you overlay your benefits with your personality, then we up-level that to pillars, brand pillars that are unique to your business, product, or service. And once we know the pillars, we're able to then kind of craft a really pithy, awesome, powerful, engaging, memorable brand promise. This is what we do in the workshop. After the workshop, we spend some time really finessing the playbook, because all of this has to be actionable, right? Once you have, we sometimes call these like the Lego bricks of how you communicate. Now you need to figure out like, well, what configurations are we going to put these in? And so these are the ingredients that then inform what you do with your website, what you do with your blogs, what you do with your social, what you do, with sales scripts and signage and collateral, what you even do operationally, right? Your company is a story. Your company is telling a story, and everybody needs to be reading the same book. And that's what the messaging playbook is. So just wanted to give you a little bit of insight about that. If you want to know more, just hit me up or go to motive3.com. We can take you more through this process. But all of our engagements when it comes to messaging are going to start with this process and this workshop. Thanks a lot.